Hey, this is Rick with Social Good Software. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can create an automated email for your sales orders, whether those be online, over the phone, or in person. So I'm going to be sharing with you here how to go from beginning to end to create an automated email message that gets delivered when a certain event happens in Ultra. So let's go ahead and take a quick look here over the presentation that I put together here for you. Again, we're going to be covering how to create an automated email. We're going to be starting from the very beginning, as if you knew nothing, all the way to actually publishing the actual email. So we're going to go through the entire process in this video here. So if this video gets too long, we're also going to separate things out into sections for a couple of minutes. So if you need to jump to a certain section, there will be timestamps. You can follow those specific time sections, or you can just simply head over to support.socialgoodsoftware and then simply find the videos there. And if you head over into Email Designer, you'll see here all the videos that you can simply watch. So this video will be broken up into smaller videos, which you're more than welcome to go ahead and watch those. But the entire thing from end to end, this is the video to see. So we're going to be creating this automated email. I'm going to be sharing with you some examples, some queries. I'm going to be sharing with you this deck. I just put a lot of content together here for you to be able to create your own emails without necessarily having to rely on us to create those emails for you. So step number one is I went ahead and put together this deck. So if you want to download it, just head over to socialgoodsoftware.com/email deck. So now that we got that out of the way, we're going to be working through the process of creating this email. We're going to be creating a sales order query with All True. We're going to be designing the actual email with Social Good Software, and then we're going to be scheduling the email to go live. So let's go ahead and get started here with the first thing. Before anything, I always recommend to start with the content first and then work your way backwards. So this is the exact same way I'm going to show you. This is the same path that we do with all of our customers. Is we start with the messaging first, and then we work backwards to actually create the email, create the queries, etc. So this is what I recommend you to do: is write your email with Google Docs or Microsoft Word or your favorite text editor, but start writing the email there. Write the email as if you had all the information you need, and then find the assets that you want to include into the email. So images, links, anything like that you want to include in the email, put all that together. And I typically recommend Google Docs because that way you're able to share that link with others, and you can collaborate and get the email pretty polished to what the actual messaging you want to use. But what I wanted to do is actually wanted to give you a template where you can get like a little head start here, so you're not starting from scratch. So let me show you this template here. And here's a template that we put together here for you. This template is pretty simple. It just simply gives you the header, and it gives you the header image size. You can send off this to your designers, and they can send you an image that you might want to use. And then we just gave you kind of some boilerplate copy for you to be able to, start writing out your actual message. The items you see in yellow, these items are to denote where you're supposed to fill in things. So for example, organization name, you probably want to put your organization name in there. And then the same thing down here, you want to probably choose your phone number, choose your email address, and then you want to link to the right Instagram, right Facebook, that type of thing. And then finally, if you want to have any footer details, you can add those as well. So again, we wanted to make it super simple, give you a head start with an actual email for time ticketing. Again, this might not apply for every single email you write, but this is a good starting point. So in order to edit this email, you do not want to click on this request edit access button. You don't want to click on that. What you want to do here is you want to say file, make a copy. Then it's going to ask you where it's going to put the copy in. I'll just put it inside my drive, and then you click OK. And this is going to go ahead and make a copy of that email, and then you'll be able to make changes to this email, actually put in your organization's name and fill in any content, add content, however you see fit the actual message you want to have. Like I said before, we always recommend starting with Google Docs, Microsoft Word. That way you actually have a physical copy, so if anything happens between now and the actual creation of the email, we have this backup for us to be able to always reference, edit, update, adjust, etc. Okay, So I'm going to assume here that you have followed our suggestion and you actually wrote the email. Again, I'm only going to make a couple of tweaks here to this email, just filling in our organization's information. And then we're going to go ahead and just type this email out. Okay, and it looks like that's pretty much our email at this point. So like I said before, we included a lot of the information here already for you. We don't restrict you what you can include on the email. So for example, if you want to include the first name, last name, and middle name, you're more than welcome to do so. But for this example, we just wanted to keep the email really simple, and this is what the email we're looking at here. Again, these variable names come directly from a query, which we haven't built yet. This is why we kind of always want to start when we're writing our content, start with as if you had all the information in the world, and then work our way backwards when we're actually creating the query. So that's pretty much all there is to actually writing your email with Google Docs. Like I said before, put together all your assets, put together all your files, and then put all that together, and then you'll be ready here for the next step. All right, so once you have all this done, then you're ready to move on to the next step, which is going to be how to create a sales order query with all true. So if you're not familiar with sales orders queries, this is going to be a great refresher for you to be able to know how to create these queries, remember how queries work. And if you've never used queries before, I have a little crash course here for you. Again, this isn't specifically to learn queries from scratch. Blackbaud has its own training for that. But what I'm going to do here is just give you some tips and tricks on how to best think about when you're writing queries, so you can really become a great person to be able to write these queries and adjust them and modify them and be able to kind of think on your own regarding the things you need to do with the queries. So before you write the query, before you even log into AllTrue, before any of that, I highly recommend you to start with your questions that you want to have answered with this query. So for us, it's really simple. The one we're going to be creating right now is going to be for time ticketed. More specifically, we want to send an email for every transaction over the phone, online, and in person. This is the query we're going to be writing for. So this includes everyone that has purchased a admission ticket online, over the phone, or in person. They're going to get this email. So that's like my question is, can we deliver an email for everyone that's purchased a general admission? And then actually you want to go through the process of actually creating the query with all true. And then the last step here is we're actually going to be creating a specific query, which is going to be a sales order query with all true. So let's go ahead and just take a quick look here. Again, this video here is not to teach you queries from scratch, but I'll just give you some tips and tricks that I've learned over the last couple of years that I've used all true. So like I said before, take a few minutes and define the questions you want to have answered with your queries. Again, this just doesn't apply for time ticketed. This applies for any query. Write down your question. So in our example is, give us everyone that has purchased a general admission ticket today, and that's essentially our question. And then think about the data you will need and how you'll like the data to be presented. Again, we already worked through that process because we worked out our email. So here's our email. We already typed out the information that we need. So we already worked through the process of what the data we need and how it's going to be presented. So we're already one step ahead. And then we want to work through any joins or exclusions on paper before writing queries. So what this means is if you're joining two different sales orders, or if you're doing exclusions, things like that, you want to write them down on paper. For example, if you wanted to exclude any advanced sales, group sales, daily sales, again, just take a few minutes and write down your notes. That way when you go write the query, it's a lot easier and you have these things on top of mind. So kind of start with your questions. After you have your questions done, then it's actually time to get your hands dirty and actually write the queries with all true. So you want to convert those ideas that you have on paper with actual queries in all true. And just keep in mind, it's okay if you need to create multiple queries. You can always join them together with SocialGrid software. So don't think you have to just get everything right with one query. You can break it up into multiple queries. And then also another note here is, be patient as you find the fields you're looking for. Sometimes AllTrue has things nested like 4, 5, 6 levels deep, and it can get a little bit frustrating. So just be patient, work through the process, find the fields, and just be patient with yourself as you're doing this. And what you want to do is you want to usually start with one sales order and make sure your output matches the expected output. So instead of querying for everyone, query specifically for an email that has purchased a sales order, query for a specific record, and then once you feel pretty comfortable with that, then open up the query for everybody else. But typically I start with one row just to make sure our output is what we're expecting. And then finally, the last tip that I have here for you is test and then test some more. So if you're not sure you're getting the right data output, just test and test and test again until you're happy with the result. All right, so we're actually going to jump into Ultra. We're going to be creating a query here. Again, I have another link here for you that you can use. This link here will allow you to be able to create a query template. And this query template is, again, for our original question is, give me everybody that has purchased a sales order item today. You can reach this at socialgoodsoftware.com/query template. And this will give you kind of a query example here that you can follow. And this query example is the one we're going to be using to create the query today. So I'm going to drag this guy over here and we're going to go ahead and get started. So step number one is to go inside of Ultra and actually start creating this query. So we're going to head over to Ultra. We're going to go to Analysis. We're going to go to Information Library. We're going to go add an ad hoc query. And then here, we're going to go ahead and add a sales order query, and we're going to click on OK. All right, so now that we have added in that sales query, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to look at this query example. And this query example is simply outputting the fields that we need for our email. So here's our email. Our email needs a first name. Here's first name. Our email needs an email address. Our email needs a lookup ID. Here's the lookup ID. Our email needs a transaction date. Here's the transaction date, and so on. So our email already has a lot of this information, and this is what this query is saying. It's just we're showing this information in the email, so we need to query for this information. So I included a couple screenshots here for you that already have the tree structure predefined for you, so you don't have to start from scratch. But we're going to head over to constituent and we're going to grab their first name, so constituent, and then we're going to grab their first name here, first name, to give it a lookup ID, and then we're going to grab their email address. So this is email address, and then we're going to grab their lookup ID, sales order, and this is going to be lookup ID. And we're going to grab the transaction date, which is also here. And we're also going to grab the start date, start time, and end time. So this is sales order item ticket, sales item ticket program events. And like I said before, start date, start time, end time. And then we're going to grab the amount. Here's the amount. And we're going to say sales order record. And the sales order record is important because this is how we're able to attach a copy of this email back into Ultra. Okay, so looks like we have that information here. And if we go back to our question, which is saying, give me all the sales orders that were processed today in order for us to send the email. And this is where kind of part one comes in, where we have to restrict this query. So let me see if I can make this a little bit larger for you. And we're going to head over into constituent, and we're going to make sure this is an actual individual. So is individual equal to yes. And then sales order item, the status of the order is active. So sales order item ticket, status is equal to active. And then we're going to say transaction date is today, because remember, we want to go ahead and grab all the orders that have been processed today. And then we're going to say today. And then we want to go ahead and grab the next item here, which is note is blank. And if we look up here, note is blank is also on the restriction side. And what that says is just simply saying that our notes are blank, so this transaction order does not have any notes, and the notes are simply a email that gets sent out, gets attached to the sales order as a note, So we're just saying, give me all the transactions for today that we have not sent an email to. That's all that means. And then we're going to go ahead and restrict this to museum admission. So we're going to go sales order item, ticket, program events, name. And then here we want to say museum admission. And this museum admission here is just simply saying, only give me the people that have purchased a museum admission, not everyone. So this might be different for your organization. So whatever program name you're querying for, just make sure you adjust that to fit your organization. It might not be museum admission. It might be just a different program name. So just check with guest services, or just go to the web tab and look at the programs you guys have. But this might be different for your organization. This is just simply an example. And then finally, we want to say refund status is equal to 0. And this just means we do not want to email anyone that has asked for a refund. And typically people don't ask for a refund right away, but this is just something nice to include there, just in case if somebody buys and cancels right away, then we'll catch any of those emails there. Okay, so if we go to preview here, you'll see nothing, just because right now we don't have any transactions that have happened today. But this is pretty much the query that we're going to be using. So I'm going to go ahead and name this query now, and then I'm going to call this one ticket sold today, like this. And then you want to make sure you uncheck suppress duplicate rows, and that's really important as we work towards having as many of the output fields as we want. If there is any duplicate rows, the application, the email designer will catch those and merge them for you. So just make sure you uncheck that. And then you click save and close. And that will give you the email for the email query here for ticket sold today. So that's all there is to this query. And the query example that I have included here for you, which you're more than welcome to use as a starter point. But what I want you to keep in mind as you're working on these queries, because it's more than likely you're not just going to be working on the one query, is just to keep in mind these other concepts that I share with you as you write different queries. Is just make sure you start with your questions, you create your queries with all true, and then you create the actual sales order query that you might be needing to actually send the email out. So that's all there is to actually putting together the query. Here in the next step, we're going to be actually using this query to design our email. All right, now that we have actually finished creating our sales order query, the next step here is to go ahead and create a sales order note type. So sales order note types are really handy because it gives us a way for us to be able to check if an email has been sent, and it gives us proof that the email was actually sent, and it allows us to not double send emails to the same person. And we're just going to be creating a custom note type specifically for emails. If you want to send multiple emails to the same person, this is a great way to be able to do that, because you can attach different note types depending on the email you're sending, such as a reminder, post-visit survey, the actual email for the transaction, etc. You're able to create note types for each of those specific scenarios and not be able to double send the email again and again. So this is a great way for you to be able to query, keep your data tidy, and then being able to actually stay consistent with only sending one email. So I'm going to be sharing with you how to create these note types now. We're going to head over to Alltrue, and we're going to head over into administration. We're going to go over to tables. We're going to select this drop down, and we're going to head over into ticketing, and we're going to click apply. And once we have reached ticketing, we're going to go ahead and find sales order note type. And then here you'll see all the note types that you currently have. If you want to add a known note type, you just simply click add, and then you give it a name. Oh, it looks like I already have a post-visit survey, so I can just call this one survey. So here's our survey email. I already have an email receipt sales order note type, so I can't recreate that one. But that's just pretty much all there is to adding a new note type. If you want to edit it, you just simply click on edit and then give it a different name. And if you don't want to use this note type, you can just simply click delete, and that will get rid of the note type itself. And again, this is how easy it is to be able to go in there and create these note types. These note types are really handy for being able to segment different emails and checking which emails have sent and which emails have not been sent. And we'll have a separate video on showing you how to create those more complex queries. But for now, this is just a really simple breakdown of how and where you can access these note types. All right, so that's all there is to note types. Once you have your note type created, you'll be ready here to move on to the next section. All right, so now we finally are going to be getting to actually designing your email with Social Good software. Here's a couple of tips that you will need before you actually start writing the email. You need to have your domain name verified. So this is something we do for your organization. So if you have not had your domain name verified, just please reach out to us. We're happy to, show you how to do that process. It's really simple. It doesn't take that long. Just reach out to us. We're happy to share with you how to do that process. The next thing here is you want to have a title for the email ready to go. So however the email title is going to be delivered to the inbox, you want to have that ready to go here for your email. And you also want to have the from and reply to address ready. So whatever email address you want to use, just make sure you have that handy. You need to have a note type defined. We already have one defined. And then you need to have your email written, preferably. You typically don't want to be writing this email in the email designer. Again, like I said before, versioning, collaborating, all those things that Google Docs does for you. We don't want to take over any of that. Just simply do that with Google Docs and then bring that email over into Social Good, and then have all your assets exported out of Google Docs. So if you have headers, images, icons, anything like that, make sure those are all exported as just flat files that you'll be able to upload with the email designer. All right, so once you have put together all this content, you'll pretty much be ready to move on to the next step here, which is actually putting this email together. So let's scroll down here, and we're going to be migrating our content over from Google Docs into the actual email designer. So this is going to be including header images, content, links, e-tickets, variables, social media, footer images, footer section. So in this part, we're going to actually be migrating our content from Google Docs to Social Good software, and I'm going to be showing you every step along the way here. So let's head over to the dashboard here, and we're going to go over and click onto the email designer app here. And it's going to ask us to here create an email template. So we're just going to go ahead and click create template, and it's going to ask us for a name. I already have a name for this email template, which is just tickets sold today. You're more than welcome to name your template anything you like. And it's going to prompt us here that this is a transaction email. Again, transaction emails are only to be sent once. These are great for online purchases, receipts, or custom welcome messages regarding a purchase online. So that's the option we have. And then here, we need to go ahead and add an OData link. And a couple of side notes here. Additionally, you can add optional fields to use as inline variables for your email. Just add the extra columns to query, and they'll be available for you to use. So like I mentioned before, if we look at our query here, you will see all of our columns. And these are the columns that we'll be able to use in our actual email. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this Get OData link. I'm going to copy this link here. I'm going to head over back to the email designer. I'm going to click Add OData link. I'm going to paste that link in here, and I'm going to click Next. And then right now it's not finding any items, which is okay because again we haven't sold any tickets today. So I'm going to go ahead and just click Next one more time. And then it gives me a prompt here. So if you have more OData links you want to add, you can just simply click Add OData link and keep adding OData links. I only have one query so far, so that's the one we're going to use. And then here it tells you we found 10 fields from the OData links you provided. Please review the fields below. And then you can see here how things actually get mapped for your email. So this is how they actually end up mapping, and this is how you can use them inside your email itself. And then we're going to go ahead and ask you a couple questions about the actual email configuration, and that's what we're going to do here now. And the first one here is email address. So we're going to select the email address. Now for the grouping key, it's really important that you select system record ID, because this will allow us to be able to group all the duplicates in the query that belong to the same sales order as one item instead of having multiple emails go out for the same sales order. So it's really important that you select system record ID here. Then you're going to be prompted here to select any of the merging fields that you want to group together. In our example, we're not grouping anything together besides the sales orders themselves, so I'm going to go ahead and click next. And then for merging keys is if you want to merge any rows into columns. Again, we're not using this feature right now, so we're going to click on next. And then here's our node type. Again, before, like I mentioned before, we created this node type. And this node type is for you to be able to attach emails into your sales order documentation tab. You simply have to select the right node type for this email. And we're just going to select email receipt for this specific email. All right, and then here's asking us for our from address. Like I said before, we prepared already, so we have it handy. The from name, we also have it. That's just our organization. And then our reply to, we also have that email handy. And then CC, we don't want to CC anyone here. And then we don't want to BCC anyone on this email. And now we need a subject for our email, which I'm just going to say your tickets at Social Good Software. And then here you're able to see everything, how everything gets mapped regarding, from name, addresses, that type of thing. And so far I'm pretty happy. So I'm going to go ahead and click create template. And this is going to go ahead and create a template here for me called tickets sold today. So if we take a quick peek here at the actual template, you will see that we have a visual designer here, which is what we're looking at right now. We have a preview tab where you're able to preview any emails. We have an activity tab where you can see any activity that we have done, such as processed any emails, downloaded any data, that type of thing. And then finally, the settings is where you can actually configure some of the settings for the email. So we're going to go ahead and just start with the first tab here, which is the email designer. And like I mentioned before, we actually help you out by starting writing some of the copy on your behalf already before you actually start writing anything. But what I want to do here is I don't want to use any of this content. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete all of it, and we're just going to start from scratch. You can do this simply by clicking in the content itself and then clicking on a little trash can up here, and this will remove the content. All right, so it looks like I have removed all that, and I'm also going to delete this one down here. So now I'm left with just one column, no content, and we're going to transfer all of our content from our Google Doc. So here's our Google Doc, and the first thing that we have here is an image. So I'm going to find the image on the right hand side by clicking these 4 little squares, and this is going to open our block section here, and we're going to find the image that we want to go ahead and upload. So this is just simply an image. So what you do is you select the image from the right hand side, and then you just simply place it, and this will give you a default image. And what you need to do here is replace this image with the image you want to use. You simply do this by double clicking the image. And this will open up a dialog here with any images that you have uploaded, and then you can choose to upload any new images. So I'm going to go ahead and click upload image, and then here's my header image that I have already. So I'm going to go ahead and click choose, and it's going to go ahead and upload my header. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this header one more time, and then that goes ahead and closes the window we were at, and then it inserts this header image into the content section. So now that we have our header image, we're actually going to start copying over some of this content. So we're going to go ahead and grab our text. On the right hand side, just simply select text, drag it and drop it, and you have a text block here for you. And I'm just going to copy over my text. Here we go. And at any time, if you forget the variable names, they're just simply available on this side, the ones from your actual query. So here's first name. You can simply drag over first name, and it will insert first name here for you. But since I already have my content, I'm just going to keep adding in my content. So I'm going to drag another text box here, and I'm going to go find my content. Here we go. Paste that in there. Oh, it looks like the highlighting was brought over, so I'm going to go ahead and select no highlighting, and paste that again. And then I'm going to drag another text box here, and then this one's going to have view your tickets. This one's going to be an actual link. We'll come back to this in a second. We're just going to go ahead and keep writing our email. Drag another text box, copy over the next section, and then another text box, and then here's some more sections, and we're going to do one more, and this one actually has multiple items, which is no big deal. Grab another text item, some more content, one more, here we go. And the reason why I'm keep entering these text boxes is because I want to be able to have those line breaks between each of the paragraphs. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. And again, everything might not transfer specifically the way you designed it in Google Docs, but we'll see that here in the preview once we actually click save. And then here's our questions. Here we go. And then finally we have, this stay connected section, which will come back here and work in a second. But overall, this looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and add our social media icons now. And we're simply going to do this by going over to the right hand side, finding this item called Group Social, drag this over and drop it in. This will drop in 4 elements: Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. Google+ doesn't exist anymore, so we're just going to go ahead and delete this. And we're actually going to go ahead and add another social element. So instead of Group Social, we're going to do a social element for our Instagram. Put this in here, like so. And then we're going to go ahead and select the first one. We're going to click on this little gear up here on the top right hand side, and this is going to give us a section to be able to select our icon. So Facebook looks good to me. I'm going to go to my email, copy over this link, and then I'm going to paste that link in there. And just to make sure it worked correctly, the next item here is Twitter. So we're going to go over to our Twitter, copy this copy this link, paste it in here. And then we're going to go over to this Facebook one, and then instead of custom, we're actually going to say Instagram. And then we're going to go back, and then we're going to copy this link, and then we're going to select the Instagram icon, do the href, paste it in there, and those are our social icons. And this footer detail is already pre-built. All you have to do is go to the right hand side, click on the open block section, and then we want to go ahead and drag over our footer section, and you'll see here that it's already predefined all here for you. So we'll automatically put in your organization's name, your address, your phone number, all this fun stuff. And what you want to do here at this point, you want to go ahead and click save. Now go ahead and save your email, and if you do a quick refresh here, make sure it still looks good. Overall, it's looking pretty good. I think we did a pretty good job. There was a couple things that didn't quite save, like our bold on our headlines. Again, which is no big deal. We can just simply click into here, click bold, click into here, make those bold, and then we'll make our view tickets bold as well, and then we're going to click save. Okay, so it looks like we went ahead and saved that. Let's do a quick refresh here, make sure this looks good. All right, so overall we're pretty happy here with how this is turning out. The last section that we did do here is for this footer section to work correctly. You need to make sure that we have this information on file for your organization. And the best way for you to be able to check if we have this information on file is just simply going to settings and then clicking on account. And then here you're able to see the organization's personal information like name, website, address, city, state, zip code, and phone number. So you want to go here and make sure you update this information to be the most recent for your organization. We're going to head back over to Email Designer. We're going to click on our Tickets Sold Today email, and then we're going to finally work on this View Tickets link. All right, so finally we're at the section where we need to find this link and insert it into this email. So what we need to do here is typically the way you find this link is when you go to settings here, and then you enable automatically generate e-ticket number. So you enable this option. You click Save Settings, and you head to Preview. And then in the Preview tab, if you have any preview emails, you would actually get the link there. But since we don't have any emails yet, we're not seeing the link. So I'm going to go ahead and it'll give me a moment, and I'll adjust the query with some data. Looks like I got some data here. And here's an email that we can actually preview. So we're going to go ahead and click on this little arrow to preview it. And then here you can actually see the email. And this preview fills in all the information regarding that email. It looks like we might have a typo here on transaction date, so we have to go take a look at that. But other than that, everything else looks like it's coming over correctly. So I'm pretty happy with the preview. But what we're here for is we're here for this preview e-tickets link. Now this preview e-tickets link is the one we're actually going to use to insert into the email itself. So you just simply do is right click and you say copy link. And what I'm going to do here is for you to be able to see this link is I'm going to go ahead and paste it into this notepad that I have open, and you'll get a link similar to this one here with this really long URL, and it gives you all of this numbers and gibberish. What you want to do here is you want to find this section that says SOID equals something. You want to find this section here, and you want to delete everything after the equal sign. And then you want to do %sign ID %sign. That way we'll replace the ID with every order. So we're just going to go ahead and copy this, head back to our email, go to the email designer, we're going to find our view tickets. We're going to go ahead and click on the link here, like so, and then we're going to click once. We're going to click on this little gear, click on the link one more time. We get this href section. We're going to paste it in there, and we're going to say new window, so that way this link will be open in a new window. And then we should be able to click save here, and that goes ahead and saves our link. And now we have our link for our e-tickets. We did find one issue here when we're looking at the preview of the transaction date. It looks like that wasn't coming over correctly. So let's find the transaction date over here. Here's the transaction date. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this to my clipboard by clicking on these two little papers. And then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to get rid of this transaction date, paste this one in there, and then I'm going to go ahead and click save. And then I'm going to click on preview one more time. And then you'll see here our transaction date has been actually populated correctly. So I'm pretty happy so far with this email. I do want to make a couple more changes. We can see our view tickets link is there now, and that will work correctly. But I do want to make a couple more changes here to this email. I want to adjust the line height between each of the paragraphs. I feel like they're just a little bit too squeezed together, so I want to adjust that. So I'll show you how to adjust the line height here. You go ahead and find the paragraph you want to adjust. You click on the little paintbrush, you go to typography, and then for line height, you select the line height that you want. I want to use 24. And then I'm going to do this for all the ones that have multiple paragraphs. So 24, 24, and then 24. That one already has it. Great. And finally the last one here, 24, and then let's click save. Let's preview this one more time. All right, it looks a lot better, much more readable, and more to the point. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with the email that we have so far. So let's head back over into our presentation and see what the next step is. Just to do a quick recap, we added a header image, we worked on our content, we added links to the email, we added an e-ticket link to the email, we added variables into the email, we added our social media icons, we didn't add a footer section, but it's the same process as the footer image. And then finally we added our footer section, and we reviewed where we can update our footer section content. So let's head over here to the next section here, which is schedule your email to go live. Before your email goes live, what we recommend you to do is to test the email and make sure you like it before you enable it. So you can do this a couple of ways. The easiest is just to simply send you a copy of the email to your actual email address so you see what it looks like on your mail client. and then making the adjustments once it actually arrives to your actual inbox. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the right hand side, and I'm going to go ahead and click on send email, and it's going to prompt me here who the email is going to be sent to. I don't want to send it to this email address. I want to send it to my personal email address. So I'm going to go ahead and send that to myself. And we also have this option here that says attach email to sales order as a note in Altru. So if you want to enable this option, this is great for you to be able to test out that the notes are actually working within Altru. So if you want to make sure your query is written correctly, if you want to see the actual note in Altru, you can enable this option. Again, we don't need it right now, but that is an option you can enable and actually see the notes be attached to Altru. But in our case, we don't want to enable it. We just simply want to go ahead and send the email. All right, looks like that email went ahead and got sent. So just take a quick look at your inbox and make sure you're happy with the email. And once you're pretty satisfied with the email, you're ready to move on to the next step here, which is to adjust the query for the go live date. So you will need to go and actually find the query and adjust the query based on the date you want to start sending the emails. And if that's immediately, you can just simply move on to the next step. But for example, let's say if you wanted to wait 3 days from today to send the email, you would just simply have to go adjust the query a little bit there for you to be able to start sending emails 3 days from today. All right, but I'm not going to show you how to do that. I'll leave that up to you for you to go ahead and adjust that query. And then finally, once you're pretty happy with the date of the go live and you're happy with the email, then you can go ahead and click on the start sending emails option in the settings. So we're going to head back over to our email. We're going to go over to settings, and we're going to go ahead and click start sending, and this is going to go ahead and start sending the emails on your behalf automatically as soon as the transaction happens online or over the phone or in person, just depending on how you set up the query. And then you just click save settings, and then you'll be all done. And then for whatever reason, if you need to come back and adjust the email or modify the query, one thing that we do recommend is that you disable it and then you work on it and then you re-enable it. But once you click on the start sending option, this will start sending the emails on your behalf automatically without you having to go in there and do anything else. All right, so that's going to go ahead and do it here for me. Hopefully you found this video helpful. I know this is a really long process to set up these emails. It does take about half an hour to get them set up correctly. If you have any questions about this process or you have any feedback on how we can improve it and make it easier, do you want more templates? Do you want more queries? Tell us what you want to see. We're always happy to hear your thoughts. But that's going to go ahead and do it here for me. Again, reach out if you have any questions. We're always happy to help.